Tell you about this. The coronavirus pandemic has wreaked havoc in almost all sectors of business, leaving thousands of workers, if not millions, without jobs. And now research shows almost half of South African employees are experiencing a pre-traumatic stress syndrome due to the level of uncertainty surrounding their future. Let's discuss this then with Cassey Chambers, Operations Director at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Cassey, always good to speak to you. Sadly, not the best news that we're discussing this afternoon, and 46% of respondents from a survey you did with a unit at the Northwest University found this pre-traumatic stress among your respondents. How was it manifesting?
Thank you very much for having me, and especially to discuss this important topic. I think what's really interesting from the survey is that it had over 1,600 employees during COVID, so this was a period between May and June that the online survey was done. And yes, nearly half of employees have very high levels of what we're calling pre-traumatic stress disorder. It's a concept or a disorder that's been spoken about a lot from overseas, but especially at SADAG, when we start to link the symptoms and what people are experiencing, it's what a lot of South Africans are experiencing during COVID. And what we're really hoping to do is to raise awareness about these signs and symptoms, especially in the workplace, so that we can provide support before that there are serious consequences.
And one of the alarming numbers that you've put out is that in the last while you've seen up to 1,400 calls coming into SADAG call centres daily. Are those strictly COVID-related calls?
I think it's a combination, especially as COVID impacts South Africans in so many different ways. We have employers who've had to close their businesses and don't know how to look after their staff. We have people who had a job a month ago who are now unemployed looking for food distribution centres. But we also have people who are just feeling really anxious, worried about their children, worried about their finances or where they're going to stay. COVID has really compounded people's mental health issues before and during COVID. So I think a lot of people are struggling and they're reaching out for help. And the longer, I mean, we're already now 4 months into the COVID lockdown, the impact on people's daily functioning and livelihoods is getting worse and worse every day. And for a lot of people, they're not coping at all.
And Cassey, how do you intervene when those calls do come in? I mean, one thing that I want to pick up on that you've just mentioned is the fact that often the rug, if well, where people losing jobs is concerned, is pulled out so quickly that people do go into a sense of shock because often it's unexpected and it happens quickly.
It does, and I think with COVID, no one had a plan or a guideline as to what to do or what to follow. It's happened really suddenly, and I think for a lot of people, it's that sense of shock that I don't know what to do, and also because it impacts so many aspects of your life, you're kind of thinking like, where do I begin? It's food, it's shelter, it's protection, it's our own mental health. And you know what we're doing during this time is that our calls, our helplines have been running 24 hours a day throughout COVID, as we're assisting callers to make sure that they're still getting treatment, that they can still go to facilities, see psychologists, see doctors, get their medication. And it's really important that people continue getting their mental health treatment and support during this time, especially because it's so scary. There's such uncertainty. People don't know, is it open? Can I see a psychologist? Is my meds going to be available? So a lot of what we're doing just this time is just providing reassurance. We're phoning ahead and helping check if the meds are still there, if the clinic is still open, what the new COVID procedure is. It's different at every clinic and every hospital around the country. We're just trying to prevent people moving from pillar to post. We're just trying to get them the help as soon as possible.
And I was quite struck then that given all the bad news around us, the job losses, the death, the illness, 35% of the people surveyed in your research said to you that they were actually quite hopeful about the future, but given that we don't have a timeline to the COVID-19 pandemic itself and the national lockdown, you wonder just how long that sense of optimism or hopefulness will last.
I think it's so amazing to see that South Africans are still hopeful. And even in an earlier survey that we did at the beginning of lockdown so long ago, people, even though they were stressed because of COVID and what was going on, they still understood why we had to do lockdown. And again, to see the survey results, that 77% of people still had hope for the country afterwards. I think that's amazing that we can hold on to that resilience. And it's about making sure that we can sustain that feeling of hope and that we put in the measures now to look after our mental health, especially in the workplace, especially for our loved ones, the longer we go into COVID, the bigger the impact it has on our livelihoods and our daily functioning. And when we see from the direct results and the number of calls that we're getting on a daily basis, we know that the mental health is severely impacted. And before COVID, we knew that South Africa didn't have a very good mental health system. So we need to make sure that there is enough support to really sustain this level of hope and this level of assistance amongst us South Africans.
Cassey Chambers, Operations Director at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Good to speak to you. Thank you.